live on the internet.
All right. Welcome to the Clean Power Hour Live. Today is October 27th. I'm Tim Montague, your host. Check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. And please give us a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify. Especially a review would be useful. It helps others find this content. And I want to welcome my co-host, John Weaver, to the show. Welcome to the show, John.
Hey, everybody. How are you doing? Thanks for the invite. I hear you're in wonderful Minnesota at an opening of a factory. I'm a little bit envious of you, Tim. I just want to let you know.
I got to make you jealous once in a while, John. I am in the Iron Range of Minnesota in a small town called Mountain Iron. Everything has a mineral attached to it up here, but we're in mining country, iron mining, and now silicon mining. In a way, we are at the Heliene solar panel manufacturing factory here, and I'm joined by Dave Rosenberg, who is the Vice President of Sales and Business Development. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Tim, thanks for having me. Glad you could make it out.
I'm glad you could join us on such short notice, but yeah, it's totally psyched to be here for the ribbon cutting. What is the occasion? Why are you having so many guests here at the factory?
Sure. Well, we are here to celebrate the opening of our brand new manufacturing facility. So Heliene has been producing modules in Mount Iron for about four and a half years. And this week we're opening up a new factory adjacent to the existing. It's literally connected to the same building that is effectively grows our capacity to roughly 600 megawatts of solar module production. And so we've got state-of-the-art machinery able to produce the latest and greatest technologies, and we'll begin producing modules off the line this month, which we're very excited about.
Awesome. Yeah, really excited to be. This is my first solar panel factory visit, so super excited to see an actual line. And
be careful, though. Be careful, Tim. He's a solar developer. He might try and put a panel in his pocket. Don't let him near the commercial line. Keep the residential panels.
It's true. I might try to put a panel in my pocket or in the back of my truck anyway. So what? I guess we should set the table a little bit for our listeners. You know, here we are in 2022. We just got some wonderful legislation known as IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, which is incentivizing manufacturing in the United States. Obviously, Heliene has been nudging your way into the U.S. market here for the last couple of years, and you have multiple factories now in the U.S. Give us a little bit of the lay of the land, and why is this factory expanding its line?
Yeah, absolutely. And so just to be clear, so we started this construction project over a year ago, so well before visibility to the Inflation Reduction Act. And yes, we saw hopes and glimmer of incentive to produce in the U.S. through first Build Back Better, and then SEMA, and then ultimately it came through IRA. But roughly 1 year ago, we started construction. So we built the building. 3 months ago, there was no concrete floor in the building. So it's literally gone up over the course of the last 12 months. And today, all the tools and machinery are within the building, all turned on and in the process of being calibrated to begin producing. And so, the company believes in a very localized and domestic supply chain. We've been producing modules in North America since 2018. So we initially started producing in a factory up in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. And that was basically driven by the Ontario FIT program, which was an incentive through the government to put solar projects in the ground. And so the company was born due to that legislation, came into the U.S. just due to the demand for domestic supply chains in the U.S. to service the U.S. market. And we've continued to not be able to keep up with demand and need to continue expanding our capacities. Inflation reduction fell into place and gave us a bit of a tailwind, created a demand of even more demand for our customers because of the tax benefits through the act. But there's also other motivation and other demand being created just for other call it legislative and judicial challenges that the U.S. has faced over the last 10 years as it relates to importing these products into the U.S. And so we're effectively reducing risk in the supply chain by producing locally. And it's really great because customers, if they want to, get an understanding of where their product's coming from, they can get in their car and drive up here and see it, firsthand. And so, it's a really timely move for the company. The Inflation Reduction Act has certainly helped pre-sell our 2023 capacities, and we're actively going out and ensuring that every last module that comes off this line is pre-sold going into the year, and in 2024 as well. And so because of the Inflation Reduction Act, we have essentially new plans for new factories that'll again begin construction next year as well.
That's
So
great. I love that you can reduce the risk of the supply chain. We solar developers and installers don't like supply chain risk. It's a major headache when you can't get your products on site in a timely manner. We take so much risk on the front end of projects that when they're actually moving to construction, then you've jumped through so many hurdles. Right, John, and you just don't want to experience more bumps in the road. It's only a tiny fraction of projects in development that actually see the light of day and go to construction, and so by propping up solar panel factories across the United States, we have them now here in Minnesota. You also have a factory in Florida. Of course, First Solar has a major factory in Ohio. Q-Cells has a factory in Georgia, and now there's this drumbeat of solar panel manufacturing and racking manufacturing and inverter manufacturing. It's all coming and being reshored to the U.S. What questions do you have for Dave, John?
So one's a technical one. Do you know specifically what size panels will be coming off the line yet?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're effectively building two products off this line, and that's just basically to drive operational efficiency through the production process. And so, the majority of the demand that we're seeing in the market from the Inflation Reduction Act is in commercial, industrial, agricultural, and utility scale projects. And because of that, the two products that we're producing fit right into those types of projects. So either, flat commercial roofs or a single axis tracker or fixed tilt ground mounts. And so kind of the two workhorses that we're producing are a bifacial module. And so this is a 144 half cut cell module in a bifacial format. It utilizes an M10 cell or 182 millimeter cell. And this product is coming out with a nameplate of, say 530 to 540 watts front side production. We make a second product that's really more geared for commercial rooftop. And so again, it's utilizing the same M10 cell, which is kind of the new standard, if you will, for wafer and cell sizing. But it's a slightly smaller module. We're building it in a 132 half cut cell format in a monofacial option. And so for those that have, large commercial roofs, maybe they have, roof obstructions and would just want a smaller kind of building block, if you will, we produce the 132 to fit into those types of projects. That said, customers are more than welcome and willing, and a lot of them do build with bifacials on rooftop, but for the most of our demand that we see, it's all going into single axis trackers and ground mounts.
So being the VP of business development and sales, and you're sold out for at least a year.
We're never sold out. No, we're never sold out. Yeah, don't put words in my mouth now.
All right.
We have capacity available. We're actively basically filling that production queue as we speak.
Okay.
So, yeah, from the RE Plus show, we, got a lot of attention and got a lot of contracts moving forward. We're doing the same thing this week, and just every day we're moving deals forward to fully consume the capacity coming off this line.
Oh, so you're seeking to fill up the capacity. You haven't done it. I've heard hints that there's not a lot of demand of US manufactured solar modules available. So we'll make sure that everybody knows that you guys exist, because if there's still volume out there, that's good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can help. Just, just come, let us know what your project needs are, what the timing of your project, and we can look to see what's possible. But yeah, we definitely still have capacity left. That's it is
And what
getting
would be
consumed
what would
quickly.
be a minimum order that you would be interested in?
Good question. So we go to market through two channels. We believe in the distribution model. It's a very important channel for kind of the long tail of the industry. And we move product, through distribution for, say, call it anything less than a full truckload. If you do have the ability to buy in full truckload volumes, we can look at entertaining a direct relationship and offering those products to you direct.
And
Nice.
a truckload is
A truckload is, so this is 53 foot truck. It depends on the product type and power class, but call it 300 400 kilowatts roughly.
okay. So you would entertain sub megawatt orders?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Very cool.
So how long does it take for all the gear to start at the front of the manufacturing line and then come out the back? Is this is it hours? Is it days? Like, how long does it take for a module to be made? And this doesn't count getting the gear at the factory and putting it on the thing and moving it up to the line. I mean, when somebody pushes a button, and I know it's not pushing a button, but essentially, how long might it take for a module to be delivered fresh?
Yeah, so I mean, it happens in the matter of hours, and the longest kind of duration of that production period is the lamination. And so we're effectively kind of vacuum compressing and heating the laminates and the EVA to fully encapsulize the cell. We've kind of developed an innovative process for that here that allows us a higher throughput, because traditionally that is kind of the pinch point in production. This particular factory sitting right behind us will produce at full capacity about one module every 45 seconds. Just to give you a sense of its efficiency.
And is the line going to be running 24/7 or two shift? Tell us a little bit more about the operation.
Yeah, so I think, obviously, ideally, you want this thing running 24/7 to optimize the production capability of the machines. That said, there are a few humans involved in the process, and you need to optimize for workplace environment as well. And so, I believe on the existing line, we're doing it in stage shifts. I don't believe we have a final yet on the duration of the shifts on the new lines, but it'll either be 3 8s or 3 shifts of 8 or 2 shifts of 10. The 2 shifts of 10 is beneficial because there is some kind of O&M, operations and maintenance required, cleaning, process restocking of the raw materials going into the lines. And so if we did have a couple hours of downtime within every day, we could accomplish those processes.
And can you give us a little sense of where the other materials or the the materials that go into solar panels? There's glass, there's aluminum, there's of course the solar cells themselves. Where are all these materials coming from before they, to get here to Minnesota?
Yeah, good question. So effectively, we can procure raw materials for the modules we produce here in Minnesota from the United States. And so all of our suppliers that we've lined up for 2023 production or late 22 and 23 production are US-based suppliers. A lot of this effort is driven by the Inflation Reduction Act and qualifying our products for the domestic content provision. The two components within the module that are not available in the US today, hopefully very soon, are the glass. So there is no solar glass production in the United States today, and the cell. There is no mono-PERC cell production in the United States today. So those two components are still being imported, but every other component the EVA, the laminate, the back sheet, the ribbon, the frames can now be sourced from the U.S.
And with those components, with the labor and other costs, and this is, you're not the IRS, so we're not going to put you on a document, a legal opinion with this answer. But with all that stuff, do we think it's going to reach the 40 to 55% manufacturing domestic content requirement? I don't, we're still all learning about it, and the IRS Treasury Department's going to give out an opinion. But are we going to be able to use this as to get as part of our domestic content requirement?
So exactly. So you make a good point. We don't really know how it's actually going to play out. We're still awaiting guidance from the Treasury, which is expected kind of no later than March timeframe of next year. That said, we've taken a conservative approach as to how we're selling these products, and do believe that we can qualify the modules produced in this factory for the domestic content ITC bonus within the Inflation Reduction Act.
And what is that bonus?
So that the bonus that I was speaking of is essentially an additional 10 percentage points of investment tax credit.
Got it.
Nice. Interesting.
Well, Dave, we really appreciate you making time for us this morning. John, do you have one last parting question for Dave? And then we're going to move on and do a little bit of a news roundup for our audience as well.
Are we going to be allowed to see some of this floor? Can we shut off the cool background and do a quick panning, or is that not allowed because it's top secret?
No, we've got a full house here, Dave. We have over 100 people coming. We're going to be doing factory tours all day.
Sweet.
So, yeah, anytime you want to come up and check it out, what we're doing up here, you're more than welcome to come.
Yeah, I'll be shooting some B-roll today, and
nice.
we'll get that spliced into the finished product here on the recording. But it's not practical for us to go out there on the floor during the broadcast, just from carrying a laptop and a Zoom recorder, et cetera. So, but, well, Dave, thank you so much. Good luck, and look forward to learning more throughout the afternoon here. Dave Rosenberg with Heliene Solar. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
All right.
Thanks,
you have a
Dave.
good day.
All right, cheers.
All right.
Pretty cool, Tim.
That's great. We're just going to keep going here. So I'll let you go. So John, it is so good to be in the Upper Great Lakes. It's fall. The colors are out. I'm going to get to fly my drone over the factory this afternoon, and
Nice.
also a neighboring wind farm that appears to be powering a U.S. steel facility, although I have to learn more about that. But it looks like a 20 megawatt wind farm right in the background here. Beautiful country, but clearly mining country. I mean, there's mines everywhere you go. You can't go 100 yards without seeing an iron mine. So it's really intense. But what's going on for you? What's new in your world? Do you have any clean energy news for us today?
Well, we got a nice little list if you want to hear that kind of stuff. We did have a fire alarm in my building this morning, and when we were all outside watching, there were a group of about 6 people wearing dinosaur costumes. So what I've come to learn is that my boss at my company, who is me, doesn't have the appropriate dress schedule set up. And so, I don't know, one of these days you might see me wearing a dinosaur costume now that I know other people in Cambridge, Massachusetts wear dinosaur costumes to the office. So that's probably the most significant thing that's happened to me today. How's that for you?
Well, that sounds exciting. I hope everything's okay.
I believe it was a test. So yeah, so it wasn't a real one. We were expecting it. The dinosaur costume, though, that was the surprise portion of it, I'm guessing. So I like it. We can jump straight into the news. I got some good stuff up there. I really think it's cool, though, that you're at a manufacturing facility. You're going to get to see the factories. You're going to get to see the robots. And I'm interested in the number of people that are actually working on the floor, because, I bet this is a decently automated facility. And, when you get to this level, there's probably only 30, 40, 50 people who have to support a few hundred megawatts. gigawatts. And
Yeah,
I bet there's
I think that's accurate, John. The parking lot is surprisingly small. When I was looking
Yeah.
at the facility from Google this morning, I'll put that on in a second here, but let's talk about this story from China. China's solar cell production capacity may reach 600 gigawatts by year end. We're excited about a 600 megawatt facility here in the US, right? Of course,
Yeah.
we have some larger solar panel factories in the US now, gigawatt scale, but 600 gigawatts of capacity coming out of China by year end. And I think I read in this story by Emiliano Bellini, thank you,
Yes.
Emiliano, from PV Magazine, that this is almost doubling China's capacity year over year. Is that right?
Yes. And it's kind of, so if you look further down in the story, from like 2020 to 21, they doubled. From 21 to 22, they doubled. And now they're doubling again. And then in 24, they'll grow by like, say, up a little bit. They'll grow by 60%. It's that paragraph right there. Furthermore, they realize the country's polysilicon capacity, now this is poly, will grow from 530 megatons to 1.2. So that's a doubling in 21 to 22. And then going from 22, which will have 1.2 at the end of the year, it's doubling again to 2.5 by the end of next year. And that's the 600 gigawatts. Now, 4 million in 24. Now, here's the deal, Tim. Roughly 3 watts per gram. 4 million metric tons is, if you divide that by 3 watts per gram, gets you 1.3 terawatts of solar cell capacity. Maybe a little lower. Let's just say it's 1.1, 1.2. What's 100 gigs among friends? So in 2020, by the end of 2024, so I mean starting in 25, there's going to be a terawatt worth of polysilicon. And we know that when the Chinese push their manufacturing, it's a cohesive, broad manufacturing. So they're making the poly. That means they're making the cells. That means they're making the module manufacturing. So 2025, Tim, modules are going to get cheap. Yeah. Maybe even next year. In fact, I saw a PV info link, which is related to this article, and it may be from this same article. PV info link sees the price of polysilicon chopping in half next year. So going from $36 a kilogram, 38-ish, down to 18. So this is cool. First off, the volume, the scale of it is just so immense. I mean, it's faster to this 1 terawatt number than anything I've ever seen. I've seen no projections of 1 terawatt by 2025. Like the most recent one I saw was by Longi, and it was like 28, 29. This is 2025 that will at least have the capacity of polysilicon, 1 terawatt of modules. So that's just a lot. I mean, it's just big. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's that first mover advantage. The snowball is rolling down the hill in China, and they're pulling away. I mean, and this is a national security issue for the United States. But at least now we have IRA. I was I was joking with myself. I'm going to change my name to Ira Montague because the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, I've stopped calling it the IRA. It wasn't easy, but I've stopped calling it the IRA because of the conflation with the Irish Republican Army, which we don't want to conflate with. But IRA is really a wonderful piece of legislation. Good industrial policy is what good government is about. And so real quick, though, I want to show you a Google Maps photo of where I am. And so here's the factory. And you see this parking lot is quite small.
Yep.
And, we're talking 40 vehicles, something like that capacity. And then of course shipping docks and there's docks on both sides. The facility is actually built out a little more now than is shown in this photo. But now zooming out, and you can see right in the background, okay, just to the north, massive iron mine. And this facility right here is United States Steel Corporation. So US Steel, a major steel manufacturer, and a lovely wind farm right here,
Nice.
just to the east of that factory. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 wind turbines and a sizable substation. You and I love these things. This is pumping juice onto the grid, clean electrons from those wind turbines. And those wind turbines are up on a ridge. You can't really see it here, but this is a big ridge, which is why those turbines are up there, right? Because when you go higher, you get more wind. But this is just very telling of the landscape that I'm in. It is big mining country, and you cannot shake a stick without seeing a big mine, which, you know, it's a double edge. Okay, yeah, you have to tear up the earth to dig these minerals out of the ground. But when you look at the volume of steel that we humans consume, it is off the charts, and it is truly the material that built the modern world. So you gotta keep the mines flowing, and this is just our reality as a species, right? You can't have a modern society without steel. What we want to do is create green steel, and that's why we're so fond of some of these technologies. As I like to beat the drum of Rondo Energy, you know, making steel with clean electrons. And I have another company coming on the show called Boston Metal, which I'm also super excited about. Check out Boston Metal, based there in Boston. They're a spinoff from MIT, and they're just scaling their technology, but they're making steel with electricity directly. And no fossil fuels needed in the process. And that's what we want to see. So let's go back to the news, John, and move down the roster.
It's really hard to move away from 600 gigawatts of capacity at the end of next year, Tim. Just letting you know, it's something significant.
That number is just
And you know what? It lines up with this next story. So this is a tweet. So I'm sorry about that, Tim, but it's the only place where I've seen this image so far. And this comes from the head of the IEA, the International Energy Agency. And they're not known for predicting solar capacity to be very good. In fact, they're made fun of with their solar numbers, because they make this chart that says, oh, solar is going to grow like this. And every year it's like up. And there's this guy named Auk from Europe. I think he's Dutch. And he made a chart showing off how every single year they're just wrong. And even when they fix their years later with updated information, they're still wrong. So to see this chart from them on solar panels is really interesting. And it's no longer surprising. So the headline of the chart is the amount of energy resources from various things that we're going to need in order to be net zero by 2050. And what are we going to have to make? Well, this chart looks at the 2030 and today's manufacturing. So 2021 is the gray, and the blue that's on the screen here is announced plans by 2030. So the IEA believes that for the announced manufacturing pipeline of solar panels, we are on track to do solar's part of bringing the world to net zero energy.
Yeah, which means 50% of the global grid, basically, right, is going to be solar powered, and between 40 and 50%. And then another 40% from wind, and then the rest will be hydro, nuclear, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
But yeah, so the absence of a green bar in this graph is a good thing, but you see that we're hurting in the batteries, electrolyzers, and especially the lithium arena. Of course, those things are all connected to one another. I'm actually a little surprised that the batteries has such a small green bar, given how big the green bar is on electrolyzers and lithium. I mean, I guess electrolyzers is a separate industry.
Very new too. The electrolyzer industry is so new; it's even fresher, but it's growing massively as well.
Just so our listeners know, electrolyzers are for making green hydrogen. Right?
Yes.
Put electricity and water in and get hydrogen and oxygen out.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So are you? But are you giving this more credibility than the IEA normally gets?
Well, that's a good point. Do we trust them today when we didn't trust them last year? Well, what I would say is they're catching up. And if they're conservative on their numbers, if it so happens that they're still being conservative, but they're saying that solar is there, then pretty cool. The 1 terawatt per year number before 2030, I've read that makes us on site too. So LONG has I've been giving credit to them because they've been real smart at projecting things. And after I did the math, Bloomberg NEF gave me I've been tracking their history forever of the total amounts of solar they put out. And, it every 3 years, it's been doubling and more than doubling. And so Tim, I feel like the solar portion, we might get our job done. It's like we might be part of the solution, at least on our piece of the equation. And that means we got to help. It might be. Yeah. It's a tough world we're in, man. I don't want to. Don't count your chickens, Tim. Gotta warm those eggs, gotta work those eggs, gotta stay there, because those chickens will stress you out, Timothy. So yes, we might be, but we're working toward it. So it's a cool chart to see from the IEA, somebody who's negative on us generally.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your story in PV Magazine on the IRA. Inside the IRA, what is an energy community?
Yes.
Get this on screen. What's the story, John?
So, just like we talked with, is it Dave from Heliene?
Yeah.
Dave
Rosenberg.
Dave Rosenberg, he said all E's. So if you do his name on Wheel of Fortune, you know what to say. But so just like Dave said, you could get 10% added onto your tax credit for domestic content. You can also add 10% to your tax credit if it's located in what's called an energy community. And right here is roughly this energy community, these 3 points: a brownfield site. Any site or area starting since December 31st that was coal, gas, oil, had significant extraction, processing, etc. And then anything that was next to one of those census tracts as well. Additionally, any area that has a certain volume of employment or gross domestic product that came from fossils. And that's still being worked out. The Treasury Department has to define, as Dave suggested, it could be March of next year. So we all got to be patient. But if we scroll down a little further, and people have started to put together these maps, and these maps look at the US. So look at this map. This map shows like the majority of the country looks like it should get a 10% energy adder. And other maps seem to say 40% is the minimum number. So almost half of the nation is going to get a bonus 10% because they are in former energy communities. I mean, look at your home state, Tim. The only chunk that's not is the North.
It's pink. It's because it's full of coal mines and coal burning power plants that are now mostly shut down or shutting down. And so, Illinois is a major energy community. Look at Texas. Talk about oil country, right? And that's very much part of the energy transition. Colorado, my goodness. I mean, so many states across the middle part of the country. And then even up into the Northeast, look at Ohio and Pennsylvania and West Virginia and my gosh. So, well, this is great though, right? This is incentivizing the energy transition and a just transition, because these workers are losing their jobs. And so we want to find ways to bring them into the clean energy transition. I've been working with more and more professionals coming from oil and gas. These are oil engineers, basically the equivalent of a solar developer in the oil industry. And they're throwing up their hands and saying, I'm out. I don't want to be part of the natural disaster known as climate change, and I want to be part of the clean economy. And so if you are looking for a job in the clean energy transition, reach out to me and John Weaver. We can help you make vital connections to executives at companies like Heliene Solar. They need workers. And
sure.
These are the new oil fields of the clean energy transition, the factory that I'm sitting in right now.
There's going to be a lot of jobs. It's going to be a lot of jobs. Oh, so if we keep going on this, so what I did, I collected multiple maps from multiple groups because everybody has said we got to be careful. So if you scroll up just a tiny bit, I'm going to read off the paragraph. Here's my caveat. Multiple parties to express that the validity of any specific map is up for argument at this point. The employment numbers might be used incorrectly. EPA brownfield areas aren't defined, and coal mine data is incomplete. So, there's our caveat, everybody. So before you spend $10 million on your project, don't blame me. Blame Tim, though. Tim let me put it on the screen. So, but if you keep scrolling down, we have 6 or 7 different resources, so you can look at different maps. So I got the one from Clean Energy. Oh, I forgot their first name. VC. Christopher Clack runs that show, but we got the first map. This one is from S&P Global. It's actually a GIF, so it's supposed to be changing. So I wonder why it didn't load like that. But this is just the coal mines, the coal plants. If we keep going, we can see the next map that I believe is from resources.org. That's their map. They say that about 40% of the nation is fossil fueled. And this is the employment one. So, if it's greater than 0.17% of the local region is employed in the fossil industry, bam, 10%. And if it's greater than 0.35% of total GPA GDP, geez, Tim, then that qualifies on that same map. So here's an interesting map from BTU Analytics. They did one. It's not freely accessible, but what they did is they looked at the queues across the nation, and they said, all right, based upon our maps and the queues and where these projects are located, what percentage of these projects are in energy communities? And you can see out west, there is hundreds of gigawatts of solar in the queues that are, bam, they just got a gift from the IRA, and look at it grow. MISO has just over 100, SPP just under 100, ERCOT. Well, I mean, that's almost all of ERCOT's solar. So pretty much probably the majority of Texas is located in an energy community. No surprise there. But we have hundreds of gigawatts that got a strong financial bump when the IRA was signed. So Any of those projects, even I have projects we're working on that are definitely within coal communities. So there's lots of great benefit. And here's one of the neat ones. This is one of the super dense regions. Look at West Virginia. I mean, the only portion of West Virginia that's not an energy community is that weird part that's off in the east as we start getting
very far northeast part of West Virginia.
Yeah. Like the whole state. So remember who signed this document, Tim? I think Mr. Joe Manchin, and that's Joe's state there. So we know that he was paying attention to this map probably pretty closely when he wrote it up. So good job, Joe, at taking care of your people. And here's another one. Yeah, this map is a great one. So this is from Jesse Jenkins' team, and I don't know, man. Looking at this map, it looks like 60% of the nation is an energy community. Just checking out these numbers. So it's, these are all just different maps. These are professional maps done by smart groups. Every single one of those smart groups said, hey, we're not legally liable for this just yet. Nothing's out. We got to fine tune stuff. But these maps are based on government data. They look at labor stats. They look at GDP stats. They look at maps by the EPA, and these analysts are doing their best to cross these different layers and give you this sort of beauty. So if you're a developer, go to where these weird colors are, because you get an extra 10%.
Yeah, I think most Americans are fairly ignorant about just how big energy is, what a big part of the economy it is, and what a big piece of the geography it is. But I have a question, John. What are you hearing about Pennsylvania? You notice Pennsylvania is all dark here, and I know that developers like yourself have been securing site control in Pennsylvania, anticipating the opening of a community solar market. I also heard rumblings of a C&I market in Pennsylvania. There's a small, residential and C&I market, but are there new incentives coming in PA for community or DG solar?
Nope. I mean, the Pennsylvania politicians have decided they don't like community solar. They've had years, and the voting term just ended yesterday or the day before the election. So there won't be anything else. And so, no, I had a phone call. One of the reasons I was a little late to get on the video with you, Tim, is I had a gentleman we've been playing phone tag in PA. He got a great offer from a developer. He's also got an offer for some neighbors to buy his land. He's like, John, I need some advice. The money for the solar is much, much better, and I can give it to my kids and they can have a long-term income for the next, 30, 35 years. And I said, yep. And he goes, but these neighbors, they want to buy the land today. They might not be around in 3 years. I said, yeah, that's the way it works. And we talked for 20, 30 minutes about PA and what the reality is. And so right now, Tim, my company is not putting out more money to sign land in Pennsylvania. Right now, we're waiting because we've, every 6 months, I get a phone call from some big pocketed developer. Hey, sell me your Pennsylvania land. All right. And then they're like, well, let's wait till the deal closes. And I chuckle. I'm like, okay, we won't be talking because, my confidence level in PA moving forward is pretty low at this stage.
Interesting. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yep.
And hang in there. Yep. There's a lot of risk on the front end in solar development, but if you're not an early adopter, then it's hard to break into a market. And so you're smart to be an early adopter and take that risk because that guarantees some reward at some point. It's just a question of when. Pennsylvania will pop. It's just a question of when. So let's move on. There's a story here in Electrek about Tesla and a mega factory. I'm not used to saying mega in relation to Tesla. I am used to saying giga or Terra, but what's the story with the Tesla mega factory?
Well, it's the mega factory for the mega pack. And it's not a mega factory, Tim. It's a gigafactory. It's
well, that's good. I'm glad. I was a little concerned.
It's a 40 gigawatt hour factory, if I believe, like Electric links to Musk saying that's the goal. The video in here is pretty sweet. I don't know if the video would stream, a video within a video would stream very well.
Yeah, but usually it will.
Check that out. It looks good. So when you get inside, it's not a long video, 20, 30 seconds, but you can see some cool stuff. And it's just assembling giant batteries. Yeah, it's got some lasers. You can see the structure of the shipping containers. I guess this is painting. This is painting probably because you got a machine outside. So it's just made on Earth by humans. Yeah, there you go. So it's just.
I love that sign, made on Earth by humans.
Yeah. So there it is. I mean, it's super fast, but I was interested in this and talking about it because and you can see some units sitting outside in the parking lot, which is awesome. Just casual mega packs hanging around. But I'm interested in this factory, and I thought it was cool because, we're not only right there in the lower left. You can see them over there with that red machine, just a stack of them just hanging around. It's like, hey, buddy, can I just have a casual mega pack? I take one home real fast, put it in my backyard, back up my house for 12 months. But where we've gone past gigafactories. The gigafactory was supposed to make solar cells. We've gone past a gigafactory to make, not solar cells, battery cells. We've gone past a gigafactory for cars. We have all these factories. Now we have a factory of just the mega packs. And that talks of the transition. We're getting to the point now where we're building factories just to make large scale battery assemblies. And I like that. It makes me feel like the price is going to come down. There's a lot of steel in there, but I really like the concept that we are scaling our big stuff manufacturing for stationary energy storage. And that was why I was interested in this article, just to point that out and be like, man, check this out. We're building some stuff and it's cool.
Well, this kind of caught me by surprise. This is in Lathrop, California. I assume that's in Southern California. I'm not sure. And but a dedicated megapack factory, 40 gigawatt hours. That's about 10 gigawatts, right? Of megapacks. A gigawatt is 1,000 megawatts, right? So 10,000 units. Is that accurate per year?
A gigawatt is say 3 to 3.5 megawatt hours. And if this can do 40 gigawatt hours, multiply that by 1,000, we'll divide that by 3.5, about 11,400, Timothy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 10,000 plus megapacks a year coming out of this structure. Man, that's so cool. That's how many megapacks per day? 10,000 divided by 365. 30 megapacks a day coming out of this structure.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean that's 100 megawatt hours per day rolling out of this building. How sweet is that? So that was my building of the week. You know, I don't really have a building of the week, but if we did, that's what it would be.
Yeah, you know, we solar developers, we think solar development is hard sometimes. Try building a building, try building a factory, try building a battery factory, right? Like permitting that thing must be difficult. So,
Yes.
you know, real estate development, there's a spectrum. Solar is real estate development. We have to up our game. I'm planning a webinar series on permitting and constituent relations for solar farms. I've recently had some solar farms that met some challenges on the permitting front here in Illinois, and it's a struggle. But so we do need to up our game. But let's move on. I want to talk about this Reuters article, and then we'll wrap up the show. Biden social cost of carbon climate risk measure upheld by U.S. appeals court. That's quite a title.
Yes.
Is that what makes you laugh? That just the title? Social cost of carbon.
Well, social cost carbon, that one I get. So 50 cents per ton is only a couple of pennies per kilowatt hour, but it adds up. And every little penny adds up. And so really what this is saying is that if the judges around the nation are going to rule, if the federal government is going to make rulings, then this value of $50 per ton of CO2 is what the number is now that has to be used. And this number has gone up since the Obama era. It crashed during the Trump era, of course, and now it's back up again to this number. And so the lawsuit was actually a little funny. So a group of attorney generals who was sued, and they simply said, this is a bad number, and then bad things might come from it. And so we want to get rid of it because it might be bad. The judge is like, well, no, you can't just make me do something because you think something bad will come. You have to show some harm. And so the judge threw it out and said, nope, this is good. The social cost of carbon. So what this is, it's just going to give a couple of cents bump in certain cases to the cost of electricity and the valuations when people are building things. And if a gas pipeline's getting poured, maybe this is going to have an effect on it. And, you know, if we're trying to decide, you know, whether to build solar or build gas or this or whatever we're building, this social cost of carbon is going to start to count. And in certain states, it will bite bigger than in other states. And I'm hoping, like, say, state of New York upgrades their social cost of carbon from 3.5 cents to 5 cents, because that would be good.
Yeah.
So,
well, on the social cost of carbon, I want to highlight that I published an interview with a gentleman named Dr. Daniel Howard in Santa Cruz, California, and he has created a platform called, I got to find it, Quantum EC. Okay. And Dr. Howard is super passionate for sustainability, but he's created a platform to measure the full benefits of your solar, wind, and battery storage projects beyond the CO2 emissions reductions, right? We have to reduce CO2 emissions. We have to net zero the economy. But when we do that, we are taking a bite out of all of these bads that fossil fuels bring to humanity and the natural world, like human health, killing 6 million people a year, 6 to 9 million people are the statistics you see out there. Ecosystem services, of course, this is water pollution, this is biodiversity. And so now he's got a platform, so you can leverage this platform and do calculations that are going to add another several layers of goods to your solar, wind, or battery storage project. So check out the podcast at cleanpowerhour.com. And there you'll find the audio and the video. We have a great YouTube channel. I just want to highlight that just by clicking on the YouTube icon that takes you to our channel. And, of course, the live is here that we do this every Thursday at noon Eastern, 11 Central, 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific. And then we're doing one-on-one interviews with solar EPCs like Eric Peterman there 2 weeks ago, or just last week, sorry. We brought you a whole series on solar thermal. There's Matt Lensink from CEM Engineering with his new company called Phoenix Solar, doing single axis trackers for solar thermal, making hot water or hot fluids for example, food processing or brewing. You and I are fond of beer, John, and you need heat for brewing. And so now you can make your heat from solar. And he has imported, he's got a sole license for the Swedish technology. Just love that. Clean thermal. But so many great interviews. There's Nautilus Solar, a well-known community solar developer, our friend Matt Campbell from Terrabase, who's bringing down the cost of solar to a penny a kWh so that green hydrogen is practical. With that, I want to give you a chance to tell our listeners, John, how they can find you, Mr. Commercial Solar Guy.
Best way is to visit our website, commercialsolarguy.com, and send us a contact or give us a phone call. We're super busy, but we're working hard and taking care of as many people as we can. We're constructing in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. We're general contractors and electricians. And in a lot of other states, we're consulting and developing. So if you need some questions answered for 5 minutes, just give us a ring. If you want us to build a project, it'll take a little more than 5 minutes, but we'll get it done. So commercialsolarguy.com and Twitter, Solar and Mass as well, LinkedIn. I'm all over the internet bothering people. Come join us. Get into the arguments. It's fun. What about you, Timothy? Where can people find you?
The best place is cleanpowerhour.com. There's a contact form right there. You can also find me on Twitter, TG Montague. That's also my Gmail handle. So reach out to me. I love talking to our listeners and other industry professionals or aspiring industry professionals. We need tens and tens of thousands of more people to come into the clean energy transition. And John and I can help you get leverage in your process. We know the good players and the bad. It's good, bad, and ugly, like any industry. And so reach out to us because we will coach you and help you make vital connections to whatever part of the industry you want, whether that's manufacturing, development, installation, or other service providers in the industry. There's a huge economy that is now just swelling up like a huge wave, right? We are at the bottom of the S curve, and now we're creating this massive economic wave, which is clean jobs and prosperity for capitalists like you and I, John. Well, thank you so much to everyone who's watching the live, and please go to cleanpowerhour.com and subscribe to the show. Give us a rating and a review, most of all, a review on Apple and Spotify. With that, I want to say, let's grow solar and storage. I'm